How y'all doing? Many of you out there are probably familiar with a writer named Elizabeth Peters. She passed away a few years ago, but one of her claims to fame is a series of mystery stories of the Amelia Peabody series. I haven't read any of these, so why do I bring it up? Because Elizabeth Peters is not her real name. It's a pseudonym, she has. Her real name is Barbara Mertz, and she has a PhD in Egyptology, which she utilizes in her fiction, specifically in Amelia Peabody series. But I only came to realize this after of a book that's been on my shelf for a long time that I picked up from the History Book Club. That's one of those mail order book clubs they have, and it probably still exists, but haven't heard from them in years. But it is Barbara Mertz, Temples, Tombs, and Hieroglyphs. This is a revised edition she did back in 2007. She originally written it in the 1960s, so she had to adapt it, with the current knowledge at the time. Of course, it's nearly 20 years old, so a lot of things have been discovered after that. But still, I wouldn't neglect this book right here because it's a very entertaining read. While books that you may have around Egyptology, like any textbooks here, or maybe the Oxford History of Ancient Egypt, while much more loaded in illustrations and much more detailed and its information, this is a good companion piece to have with it because now like a good, very entertaining lecture. She goes over the entire history there from the Stone Age to Roman times, and she not only talks about that history, but also talks about the history of the archaeology involved, some of the reporting, the gossip, the historical theorizing, and uneven qualities, as it was said. My favorite part is when she describes the Pyramidians, the people who are. She talks about them about all the errors that they have. These are the people who believe that the ancient pyramids are not just tombs, but they if you crack the code, they predict future events and stuff like that. And she talks about them to disdain, and I don't blame her for that, because Egypt is interesting in and of itself. So again, a good overall book. It does have illustrations and maps like that, not fully loaded, but enough to get you by. You probably want a good book, maybe your textbooks or this Oxford History of Ancient Egypt by Ian Shaw that I just showed, but also may have the internet ready, so when she talks about certain temples, locations, or certain wall art, you could Google that and see the image of what she's talking about, and you could catch up with that. I wasn't able to do that because I read this book mostly at work. But there's some center color plates, I think I like what is that each chapter setting would show when she talks about a pharaoh. She would she would show the hieroglyph of the pharaoh in question in cartouche, and she focuses more on the people of Egypt. That's how she highlights each of the stories that she talks about, the ones she finds interesting. When you talk about, you may have heard of Thutmose III. If you're not familiar with him, he's basically their Alexander the Great of their time. He's the one that took Egypt, from the delta down to Nile, and only a few miles off the sides of that, which is what Egypt was for the longest time. Thutmose III went and conquered areas of the east. And she talks about how they held the best they could to some greater or lesser degree, depending on who took over after him. When you think about Egyptian queens, you probably think Nefertiti, who was Akhenaten's wife, of her beauty and all that, but also you may have heard Cleopatra later on. But one of them that's fascinating is Hatshepsut, who was probably the first Egyptian queen and there was a lot of controversy on that. Despite her hold of power and all the things that she did, after she died, the next ruler or so tried to erase all of her information about that. So these are just a couple of things you will find fascinating as you as you read about this. This is a good companion piece. Not the first one you want to have as your end all be all. That's other books, but this is a good companion piece as it reads like a very good lecture on this. So, and maybe it's a well done documentary, or as I said before, a well done lecture series that's entertaining. She has her own personal notes. She's not overly snarky, although some people she has a disdain. Others like, I won't get into this, or she'll have her own opinions. But she talks about various aspects of Egyptian history, both ancient and the people who excavated it and all that. So again, Barbara Mertz, Temples, Tombs, and Hieroglyphs is the 2007 revision. So keep an eye on that one. It would be nice if she were able to do a revised one because it's 2022. It's been nearly 20 years. The problem is she died a few years ago, so this is it. And but it's darn shame. It makes me want to go out and read the Amelia Peabody series, at least the first book or two, to see how entertaining it was. I know there's fans out there for it. You can probably find a few videos of her, Barbara Mertz, on YouTube here, so look those up. But when you pick this one up, and again, if you don't have a good Egyptian book, get the internet ready so you can follow along of the events and places she's talking about. So that'll help enrich it a little bit. So there you go. Temples, Ruins, and Hieroglyphs by Barbara Mertz. Thank you all for watching. You have a nice day.